Sasha Banks and Bayley got their rematch for the women's tag team titles against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. Before the match, they did an interview with Sasha and Bayley, and Sasha put Bayley over as hard as I have ever heard her put her friend over before on TV. This is the greatest SmackDown Women's Champion of all time. You better watch how you talk to her. She's one of the leaders of the women's revolution. She's my best friend. It was such a hard sell that it made what happened later on that much more jarring. This was a very good match. I think I probably enjoyed this match better than the pay-per-view match between these two teams. Good action, but also good psychology, great storytelling. Shayna was working over Bayley's shoulder. Sasha got the tag, ran wild. She tried to powerbomb Nia Jax off the apron like she did to Asuka with that sunset powerbomb at SummerSlam. But Nia held on until Bayley broke her grip, and then Nia went tumbling down to the floor. So that took Nia out for a while. Bayley got a near fall on Baszler with the diving elbow off the top. Key moment here was Sasha missing the knees to Baszler. They were on the apron. She went to do the running knees, and Shayna moved, and then boom, right into the post. You heard that noise. Sasha's knees off the ring post. It's not the steel ring post anymore, but it does make a great sound effect, which is probably part of the reason why the posts are like that now. That and all the LED stuff. They got to get real fancy, so. But it made a great noise, and Sasha was down on the ground outside the ring. She was writhing in pain. She was in agony. Looked like she broke her kneecap or her shin. Baszler brought her back inside. Now Shayna sees an opportunity, and she targets the leg. She targets the injury. Sasha was just crying out. Baszler tried for the finish from Payback, where she trapped Sasha in the Muda lock, and she went for the Kirifuda clutch at the same time on Bayley, but this time Bayley hit the belly to Bayley to break it up. Sasha managed to lock on the bank statement. Nia broke it up, and Nia got the win for her team with a second rope crossbody to Banks and Bayley. She squashed them, quite literally just came tumbling down and squashed them like a couple of grapes, and got the pin. After the match, medics are in the ring. They're tending to Sasha. Sasha is just batting them, get away from me, get away from me. Bayley is looking on with concern, and she goes over to help Sasha out onto the apron. And as soon as they get out onto the apron, Bayley snaps. And she kicks Sasha in the head. She attacks her injured leg. This was a vicious beatdown. This was a prolonged, vicious beatdown. She put Sasha's head in a chair, so think the Brian Pillman angle with Austin from many years ago, right, when he Pillmanized his ankle. Only this time she put wrapped the chair around her head. It's basically what they did with Kane and Shawn Michaels. Kane did this to Shawn Michaels many years ago, where he came off the ropes, the chair was wrapped around Shawn's head, and he stomped on the chair. The only difference here is that Sasha wasn't spitting up any blood capsule, like Shawn Michaels was. But Bayley came off that middle rope, and she stomped down on that chair. This was a heavy angle. It was like a powder keg that was ready to explode now for months and months and months. Only you thought that it was going to be Sasha Banks being the one to turn on her friend, but instead it was Bayley who turned. And this was the correct move. As much as I love Sasha as a heel, for this story, the right outcome was Sasha Banks as the babyface and Bayley as the heel. And I'm going to tell you why. It was 1 year ago, almost to the day, to the very week, September 2019. There was a match on Monday Night Raw that saw Becky Lynch teaming up with Bayley against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Sasha Banks, she had just come back to television as a heel. She attacked Becky Lynch for the DQ, and she was beating her down with a steel chair when who should grab the chair out of Sasha's hands but Bayley? And the two of them stared at each other, and Bayley is staring at the chair and looking at Becky and looking back at Sasha and contemplating what she's going to do. And Bayley smirked, she smiled, and she took that chair and she beat Becky Lynch down with that chair herself. Bayley went to the dark side 1 year ago this week by turning on her friend. And she did it with a chair. Fast forward 1 year later, Bayley once again turns on her friend. This time it's Sasha. And again, it's with the aid of a steel chair. Now that's a great story. Now, Bayley is going to be doing anything and everything that she can to hold on to her title over 320 days and counting for her as the SmackDown Women's Champion. It would have been even longer. It would have been 5 days longer if they didn't give Charlotte Flair that little 5-day run with the belt before they put it back on Bayley. But that's why it had to be Bayley as the one attacking Sasha, not the other way around. That, and it's going to be a much bigger deal when Sasha is the one to end her reign as champion. I think this should have ended the show. I think this should have closed out SmackDown on Friday night. You could have had the Fatal 4-Way headline the top of the hour, try to condense all the Roman Uso stuff to the first hour. I mean, I know why they spread it out, but this match here and this angle, this is what should have closed the show on Friday night. For the second time on this show, somebody got carted off in an ambulance. I think between that and Big E got carted out in an ambulance, Sasha Banks got carted out in an ambulance. Between that and the retribution stuff that we've seen over the last several weeks, WWE seems to be a very dangerous place to work. And now they want to take away their TikToks and their Twitch channels. Why would anyone want to work there? I ask that question almost every week. Why would anybody want to work there? The announcing. The announcing did this segment no favors. Michael Cole and Corey Graves sounded comatose, and it reminded me of when Bret Hart came back to the company in 2010. The night that he beat up Vince McMahon. So it wasn't the night that Bret came back. I think that was the night Vince kicked him in the balls. Bret came back a week or two later, whatever it was, and for the first time since he knocked him and cold-cocked him and knocked him on his ass and knocked him out in Montreal, Bret put his hands on, Bret put his hands on Vince and was beating up Vince McMahon. He punched him in the face. He was lighting up Vince, and I remember watching this, and this was a big moment. This was like 12 years in the making, was this moment. And it sounded like Michael Cole was afraid to wake up his landlord, so he whispered into his headset. This was the kind of angle that needed a Jim Ross or a Mauro Ranallo kind of call. Whoever told Cole to call it this way is really the one who's responsible for this. I understand that. But either way, I thought this did the angle no favors. This should have been treated like a huge betrayal. They kind of did a little bit there at the end, but as it was going on, like once Bayley kicked Sasha in the head and started beating her down, there needed to be this really animated call, this just, you had to treat it like the big betrayal that it was. Show some life. You know how long this has been built up for? This was the payoff to a months-long angle. So I thought that aspect of it was terrible. I mean, you got to sell the shit out of this. Bayley has been mocking Michael Cole now for months. She has been a thorn in this guy's side. She's been making fun of him. She's been annoying him, hurling insults at him. So Michael Cole has every reason in the world to be upset with Bayley. Graves, you could let Corey Graves try to be the voice of reason, all somber, trying to calm down Michael Cole, but Cole says, no, I'm not going to calm down. What that woman just did to her best friend is disgusting. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. It's one of the most repulsive things that I have ever seen. I mean, like, really, sell it, The Michael Cole from SmackDown back in 2003, he would have sold it. He would have sold it that way. That was my only criticism of this. I thought the attack itself and the way the angle played out was great. Now, I was thinking Survivor Series, because Sasha's got to be out for a while. Bring her back, do the match at Survivor Series, but I keep forgetting about that brand warfare bullshit. And I'm thinking, you know what, that actually does feel a little too soon for this. So I would keep Sasha out for a long time, like a few months. And maybe they can hold off a WrestleMania. I was not convinced that they could do it. I was not convinced. It just felt like there's just too much time between now and then. But what they did here, this was a major injury angle. I didn't know they were going the injury angle route. This was a major injury angle. Sasha has the bum knee, but she had a chair wrapped around her throat and stomped on. That doesn't keep you off TV for 2 weeks. That keeps you off TV for not even 2 months. That should keep her off TV for 3-4 months before they bring her back. And there's been reports of WWE lining up Naomi for a big push on the Smackdown brand. Maybe she can be the next in line to feud with Bayley. You got Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose coming off a big win over Sonya Deville at SummerSlam. Great. Just like they're going to be feeding bodies to Roman Reigns these next few months, you got to feed some bodies to Bayley. Naomi, Mandy Rose. I mean, you can occupy the next 3 months alone just by feuding those women with Bayley until Sasha, they're ready to bring Sasha back. That could take them probably through the Royal Rumble. Then you bring back Sasha and you begin the build. You begin the build to WrestleMania. It's crazy that we never got a singles match between these two at WrestleMania after that match they had in Brooklyn 5 years ago. I thought they were going to do it in Orlando at WrestleMania 33, but it never happened. But now I think they can wait. They can hold off until WrestleMania. I think there is a path to do that.